Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate your attendance today. We're going to talk about your registered student organization budget and how you can access that. Okay. So you're here today because your student organization receives student activity fee money from the Student Government Association. They allocate that money every year to organizations and departments that put in requests. And so we're going to go over how you utilize that money. So the first thing, hopefully you all either received an email from me back in the summer regarding your student organization's budget or your previous chapter executive members forwarded that to you. That email should have had an attachment with your spreadsheet. If you have not received this, just email me after this presentation. I'm happy to send that to you. I know that officers and the people that actually requested those budgets last year may not be around. So we understand that I might need to send those again, and that's not a problem. Okay. So this is just a screenshot of what your budget should have looked like when it came back from SGA. You'll see to the columns on the left side of the screen things that you might have asked for. Again, this is just an example, so yours may look just slightly different from what you asked for, but different lines you requested, how much money you requested from those, and then the description of those items. And then more importantly, the columns that are highlighted in the budget you received is the amount that SGA allocated to you. So for example, this group asked for $1,500 for snacks and fruit for a student fuel up. SGA allocated them $750. And so you'll see that for every line item that you requested here. And then if they made any notes about something you might have requested, you will find that there. Generally, when they make notes, it's to say, hey, we don't fund things like this, or someone else already has a weeks of welcome budget for this particular organization, or we're only going to fund $100 in food and $100 for prizes. They try to be specific when they need to be, or they may say, hey, you asked for 500, we could only give you 250. You use that to the best of your ability to host or hold the event that you wish to do. Okay. So once you know your allocation, you want to know how can you spend it. So you need to understand your allocation. Again, that's kind of what I just went over, but I'll go back through that in just a second. And you will need to understand the purchasing form on UNG Connect. And I'll go through that in just a moment. So like I was just saying, you want to understand your allocation. You want to look at each area that money was allocated for. You want to note the amount that you were given. So that's, again, what's in the highlighted. And note any specific remarks that SGA made so you know how to best spend that money, or where you can spend that money based upon what SGA was able to allocate you. To utilize that, you're going to use the purchase request form, which is found on the UNG Connect homepage. When you scroll down, you will see what looks like this down kind of the middle of the page. You'll see Department and Organization Resources, and you'll see these 4 boxes. This purchasing form here is where you're going to start to make purchase requests. I have included the link here that will take you directly to the purchase request form. I will email this presentation out to you all by the end of the week so you can have the direct link. But again, it is on the UNG Connect homepage down about the middle. Make sure you read the instructions carefully when you are starting to put on a budget request. They have specific things about when things must be requested by. You also need to just make sure that you're doing things correctly per SGA's rules. So just make sure you're doing that. The first thing of note when you're filling out a purchase request is this area here that I circled. It says, what part of the budget do you want this purchase to come from? This should come from what you asked and received money for in your budget. So going back to this example budget, if you were ready to make host the student fuel up like this example says, and you want to purchase your snacks and fruit, that's what you're going to put. The student fuel up would be written here so that when the Office of Student Involvement gets this, they can go directly look at that part of your budget, know exactly how much you were allocated, and make sure that, oh, yep, they were allocated money for this, and this request is within the budgeted amount for that purchase, and they can proceed with moving forward with the purchase. The next piece is you're going to make sure, again, you have to upload marketing for an event or an agenda for meetings if you're having food for that. You're going to put in this description box here what the requested items are. A lot of the purchases come from Amazon, so we do have a place where you can put your Amazon wish list. Of note there, please make sure that you make your wish list public, and do make a wish list, not just a cart. Links to online carts generally do not work for when somebody else goes to click on it to view your cart. If you don't have the ability to make a wish list for something, you can just put direct links to individual items. That is acceptable as well. And then you'll put the general cost in this box, and then when you need the purchase by. And that takes care of those items. Main thing when to think about when you are ready to purchase. You do not buy anything without prior approval. Unfortunately, sometimes students go ahead and purchase things and it wasn't something that they were allocated money for, or that we're allowed to spend student activity fee money on, and then they can't be reimbursed for those items. I don't ever want students to be put in that place. Most of the time we can take care of purchases for you. Very rarely should a student have to buy things and be reimbursed for that. The biggest piece that we want you to know why we want to purchase the items is we are tax exempt. So when we purchase things on Amazon or at Walmart, or even get pizza from Domino's or Papa John's, whatever the case may be, we don't pay tax. But if you go and buy that and get reimbursed, you only get reimbursed for the items. You don't get reimbursed for tax. And while some cases that may not be a lot of money, but we don't want people to be out of money that they can't be reimbursed on. So again, that's why we want to handle the purchasing for anything that we are able to. Once you put your purchase request in, it moves forward. The Office of Student Involvement will communicate with you via UNG Connect. If there are questions about maybe a link that may have been broken or something to that effect, they will ask you there. They will also let you know when the items have been purchased and where when they come in and where you can pick them up. When I stated about reading the instructions when you're beginning your purchase request form, the biggest piece of information that you need to know is things need to be requested 10 business days in advance. 10 business days is roughly 2 weeks. So that because we've got staff from several campuses that complete purchases, it takes a little bit of time depending on what's going on at that time of the year. Sometimes people may be out of the office, so we give a little leeway, but it also takes time for items to be received. So we want to make sure that we have ample time to do so and obtain items needed before your event or meeting or whatever it is that you need these items for. Failure to plan and not request things 10 business days in advance does not give you permission, again, to go and buy it on your own and be reimbursed. You have to be approved to do that. And in some cases, we can do that. You just need to communicate with the Office of Student Involvement on that. Okay. So, like I said in the beginning, the person who requested your student organization's requests may not be involved with your student organization anymore. They may have graduated. Therefore, sometimes the priorities of organizations change from spring when you requested the money to fall when now you're going to utilize the money. And you may realize, hey, we don't really want to do a student fuel up. We want to do a movie night. You can request with SGA to reallocate the money that you were given, and they will review that, make sure it falls within their guidelines, and most likely they will be approved. There's very few that I have seen over the last few years that get denied, but this is basically what you will do if you want to use your money differently than what SGA granted. You will do this again in UNG Connect. If you haven't figured it out, everything goes through there. Same place as the purchasing form, but it's over here on the right side. It says budget reallocation and SGA mini grant form. Again, timing is important. This must be requested at least 4 or more weeks in advance. The reason for this is when you turn it in, it gets reviewed to make sure that it's on the up and up, and then it gets sent to SGA for review. SGA is essentially a 2-week process to review and then vote on requests. So we want to make sure that you get that in, SGA looks at it, approves it, and then you have time to put in a purchase request for those items to get them to you in time. So that's why they take 4 or more weeks in advance if you want to reallocate any of your budget. All right. I do want to discuss mini grants. Those are available to student organizations if you need money, more money for something specific. Maybe a new opportunity arose that y'all didn't know about when you requested your original budget. Maybe you have completed all of your requests, that all the money that you requested, but there's something else your club really wants to do that would be great for the student body. SGA can consider that. There may be a piece of your budget that was given $0, and SGA may make a note that say, hey, ask for a mini grant for this. That's when you would utilize this form as well. Again, UNG Connect, it's the same part of the same form as the budget reallocation. You will utilize that. Other folks that tend to use the mini grants are new organizations that come on board that started maybe late last spring after the allocation process or are getting started now. Mini grants are utilized by them. And then for organizations that didn't receive any funding, whether SGA wasn't able to, or they did not request money because they weren't fully sure what they were doing, or they missed the deadline. Those are other folks that would be eligible for mini grants. Just keep in mind that these are limited. There is just a portion of the budget that SGA puts forth for mini grants. They generally are small in nature. And so they're not going to be for a brand new student organization that wants $2,000. That's not going to happen. But they want to see and utilize this money to help enhance the student experience, enhance student organizations that did not receive any money. All right. So we do also have a pot of money for groups that want to travel. Travel should be for things such as a conference. Maybe it is a specific trip that revolves around the mission and vision of your student organization. SGA can consider helping with monetary resources for groups to travel. Requests for travel grants need to be made a minimum of 6 weeks lead time. Again, the reasons for that is it takes a couple weeks for SGA to vote, and then an organization would need to coordinate that travel. Obtaining flights, other ground transportation, hotels, registration takes some time. So that's why, again, we ask for 6 or more weeks to complete that, so that everything is done, and again, less money out of any student pockets to travel. SGA does not give money to students for food for travel, but they do consider things like flights, rental cars, gas, mileage reimbursement, registration fees, hotels, things of that nature that they will consider for travel and to fund for that. Again, this is limited as well. So there's not a ton of funding there, but they do want to give opportunities for organizations to travel for legitimate purposes and get assistance with that. Unfortunately, there's not a lot, enough money to go around to all the student organizations we have across our campuses for all the wonderful things that they want to do. So a lot of groups do fundraise. This is allowed and encouraged if you don't have the funds to do things that your organization wants to do, or maybe travel could be a big part of your organization. And like I said, we don't give money towards food for travel. So maybe you want to fundraise to be able to pay for the food for participants if you're going to travel somewhere. That's just an example. But there's a lot of reasons groups fundraise, and that's totally supported. However, if you do plan to fundraise, you need to obtain an off-campus bank account. You need a secure place to deposit that money. You cannot do that within the university. We don't have any control over those things, but we also want you to have those accounts so the organization can be held accountable, and there's not any wrongdoing by individuals keeping money. And then, maybe they graduate and they forgot to give the money back, and then your organization is out that money. If you have the bank account, it's there for you to utilize. We are not allowed to give a lot of information regarding off-campus bank accounts per the university system and our business office guidance. But what we can tell you is I'll show you a screenshot here in a moment of where you can find the information. But we've got the information on off-campus bank accounts on UNG Connect under resources. Please note that, again, to set up a bank account, it does take time. So have it set up before you fundraise. That money can be used more freely than the student activity fee budget. There are a lot of rules and regulations around student activity fee money and what it can be used for. But fundraised money that you have in your off-campus bank account can be used however the organization chooses to. That money also that you fundraise and put in those accounts doesn't get swept at the end of the year. Student activity fee, you have a deadline. Everything needs to be completed by April 15th for spending. And if you, whatever money you have left in your account that you don't utilize, it goes into the university's reserve accounts. You don't get to keep that from year to year. but any money you fundraise and have in your off-campus bank account, you get to keep that from year to year. Again, for off-campus bank accounts that can't be affiliated with UNG, so those accounts are not tax exempt, so you would be taxed on purchases made. Advisors should not be putting their names on the accounts because student organizations should be doing that on their own, and that puts advisors kind of at a higher liability than students. So we do not encourage that. And again, must be opened and maintained by a student. If your organization wants to do that, I can tell you of other student organizations that I know of that have off-campus bank accounts, so you can chat with them for advice, but that's about all we can do regarding that information. So on UNG Connect, to find information about off-campus bank accounts, you will scroll down again under that resources header, and you'll keep scrolling, and you will see a line that looks like this. It's got documents, and it's got student organization funding guidelines. If you click on the documents, it will take you to a list. It's number 6, off-campus banking guide. Is where you would find that. Again, I have the link directly to that file here. And again, when I send this PowerPoint out to you, you will have access. So you can click on that direct link. All right. So that is the quick and hopefully easy information on how you can utilize your student activity fee and the rules around that. Check UNG Connect for resources. Let me go back to this page. The student organization funding guidelines are there. That's one specifically developed by your student government association that they update annually. And they send out when it's time to request budgets, but you can see what they do and do not fund by looking at those guidelines. There's also a the student organization manual is located there, and that's another good resource with information about event planning and utilizing your funding and things of that nature. So I just want to call your attention to those. And now I will open the floor for any questions. But just note that if you have questions, if you forget something, hey, that happens, I forget things. Please don't hesitate to email me, reach out. I'm happy to help you through any purchases, questions that you may have regarding that in the future. So with that, I'll open the floor up for questions from you all. Okay, I'm not hearing any. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.